The story begins in a beautiful virtual world. Peng Zhu walks around with a girl named Baba. In front of him are two brats, making the river dark and dirty. Baba comments why anyone would wash charcoal in the river and can it even be washed cleaned. This time, the brat asks how would they know if they don't try. Peng Zhu answers he has never seen anyone manage to wash the black off the charcoal despite living for years, and the brat's imaginations are really wild. The brat arrogantly says Peng Zhu is an old man who escaped the natural laws of life and death, and that is more bizarre than washing charcoal. The other brat then asks Peng Zhu to come with them after admitting how long he has lived. Shocked, Peng Zhu asks where to. The brats shed off their disguise and reveal their evil nature. After the eruption of their powers, they tell Peng Zhu they will bring him to hell. Peng Zhu realizes his carelessness and prepares for battle. He asks the brats if they can kick him out and shows his powers, overwhelming his enemies. The brats can't withstand the impact of Peng Zhu's might, the powers of the divine beasts. The brats are pushed away as they receive the sudden burst of power. They can't believe how skilled Peng Zhu is and asks for help. Peng Zhu hears them and realizes they are asking for his wife's help. Suddenly, his wife betrays and blackmails him into destroying his real body. Peng Zhu realizes his wife is an enforcer and was in disbelief. The brats get their chance and strike Peng Zhu, who was frozen in place. They showed their full might, knocking Peng Zhu away. This time, Peng Zhu is thoroughly defeated. In the real world, Sun Ran wakes up. Here, he is an underclass who only has faster reaction speed and exceptional looks. He has congenital heart disease and might die at any moment. He believes no one would know he is a big shot in the virtual world and that he is only a tragedy. There are more than billion humans living in the entire solar system Federation. To avoid unrest, the Federation developed virtual worlds to allow mankind to experience new lives and reduce dissatisfaction if the real world. Thus, 10 years ago, the first virtual world, Earth OL, was born. Sun Ran entered the world at the first chance. With his superior game experience, he found the extremely rare divine artifact, the Jade Butterfly of Creation. He successfully reverse-engineered the raw data of the divine artifact and obtained highest level of administrative rights in Earth OL. The authority allowed Sun Ran to remove all restrictions on Earth OL, and he became the Great Creator, a being who is above all rules of the game, also known as the strongest cheat user. Sun Ran experienced a life that has spanned tens of thousands of years in the past. Time flows at a different rate in the virtual world, and he has never been discovered by anyone. However, he never thought his identity as a hacker would be exposed today. Sun Ran started to think, and his mind went to the past. He remembers his wedding night when he suffered a heart attack in reality and got disconnected, unable to wipe the traces of his connection information. Sun Ran then receives an email from the virtual world's administrative HQ. After opening the email, he saw the lists of crimes he committed and the corresponding punishments. For the first crime of destroying the balance of the game by living more than years, Sun Ran is required to pay more than 900 million credit points. For the second crime against the opposite gender, having 49 wives illegally, Sun Ran is sued by only of them and he is required to pay more than million credits. The central AI determines he is incapable to pay and will be monitored all the time. Realizing there were wives who did not sue him, Sun Ran asks for their names. However, due to the confidentiality agreement, their identities cannot be revealed. Sun Ran puts down his virtual equipment. He sits in his chair and pondered how grave his situation is, discovering the risk of pulling stunts in the virtual world has increased several times. The central AI is the core of all artificial intelligence systems on the planet, and its controls are extremely powerful. Sun Ran is having a mental breakdown, for the AI is forcing him to his death. In the past, Sun Ran could not even get the most ordinary jobs. He cannot take on the work because of his physical condition. In the end, he can only be a male escort. However, Sun Ran would rather die than do that kind of work. Right, he'll just end it all. Sun Ran arrives on top of a building with his face in despair. He's got no money to cure his disease and might die the very next second. Sun Ran would rather follow his heart and jump than live a life worse than death. Suddenly, a woman arrives and asks Sun Ran if he would jump. He was stunned after seeing someone asking him such a question. The woman berates him for being heartless and asks him why he would commit suicide despite promising her to grow old together. Sun Ran asks the woman who she is and if she had mistaken him for someone else. He could not believe such a beautiful girl would talk to me in the real world. Seeing the beauty, Sun Ran is reminded of someone. He asks the girl if she is his first wife in Earth OL. Sun Ran could not believe what is happening, since players would seal off their existing memories and experience a new life. He believes that the woman is troublesome and must have taken the game seriously. The woman asks Sun Ran to go with him in the car. However, he continued to question her about where would they go. He knows that life in game is all in the past. The woman answers him that only fools would take it seriously, and she was inviting him to the hospital. Sun Ran asks the woman why, and she answers, for a heart transplant. He was speechless and blankly stared at the woman's beautiful face. Inside the car, Sun Ran asks why the woman is doing this, and she answers it's a waste for a talent like him to go to waste. The woman explains that the credit points paid for the operation are just a loan and Sunran has to pay her back in the future. The woman continued to ask how much debt he owed and if it's really so bad that he would commit suicide, to which Sunran answered it isn't much, only a little over 900 million. The car jolted after the woman suddenly presses the brake in shock. The woman comments that Sunran is really something and he'll be stuck with her for the time being. She then showed him a perfect job to earn money to pay off his debts. The woman introduced herself as Lan Xin, a member of the Enforcer Alliance, and a Dark Steel level Enforcer. Sunran is surprised for knowing her identity. With the birth of virtual worlds, many organizations developing cheats have emerged. Meanwhile, those who use the cheats to destroy the game balance are the destroyers. To combat them, the Enforcers were born. They were hired to use cheats and deal with the destroyers. Sunran asks Lan Xin if she wants him to be an enforcer and warns her that he is a monitored individual by the central AI. Lan Xin explains that enforcers are on the side of the law, and the central AI won't interfere with his lawful actions. After hearing that she needs an assistant, Sunran smiles, knowing he would get a healthy heart and enjoy a new life again. Sunran declares he is the right guy and he'll be definitely worth it. There are 3 residential levels in the Earth Alliance. At the top is the Zenith, where nature flourishes and only 10 million people can live. The second level is the Garden, which contains a simulated, artificial landscape and is favored by the middle class. The lowest level is the Common Ground, which only has turbid air, dull steel, and narrow streets. Located in Common Ground District lay Lan Xin's lodgings. Inside, Sunran is looking at Lan Xin's photo. He realized her photo is pasted on the picture of the Zenith, and it must be her dream to reach there like everyone else. Sunran turns his head when he heard a sudden movement. On the side, Lan Xin arrives and brings with her a regular sensorial chair. As she goes inside the room, she asks Sunran how is his heart. Sunran checks his chest and answers it feels fine due to how advanced technology is. Hearing he is alright, Lan Xin tells him that they will connect to headquarters. She explains he will be staying in the living room while Lan Xin stays in her room, and she forbids him to come to her. After Lan Xin is gone, Sunran comments that they have already lived together for many years and there's no need to be shy. Thereafter, Sunran comfortably sits on his chair and picks up his virtual equipment. He initiated connection, completing the analysis and acquiring the permission. After completely logging in, Sunran is teleported in a wide grassy field. He is memorized to see the otherworldly structure in front of him. Lan Xin explains it is the Enforcer Alliance's headquarters, the Rubik's Cube of Order. She further says that there are more than 5 million permanent enforcers in the Alliance and that maintains the balance of each virtual world. Sunran thought the majority of the enforcers are doing their job for a bite-eat and those at the top are not really skilled. Lan Xin introduces her team as Rose of Thorns with 3 members and Sunran will be the 4th. While they walk, Sunran asks why does Lan Xin still need him. Lan Xin says she needs someone really good and she welcome an experienced and skilled player like Sunran. Sunran smiles and proclaims she has recruited the right guy. Unfortunately, Lan Xin doesn't like being called intimately and berated Sunran for his shamelessness. As they arrived, Lan Xin warns Sunran not to hit on her besties and she would not allow him laying his hands on them. Sunran opens the door and takes a peek. He was surprised when he discovers he knows the people inside the room. The girls warmly greet him and they're happy that he finally arrived. Lan Xin calmly introduced them to Sunran. One of them is Care, codenamed Purple Rose. She is Sunran's wife in Earth OL. The other one is Bai Tingshuan, codenamed White Rose. She is Sunran's wife in Earth OL. Subsequently, Lan Xin introduces herself as Red Rose. She is Sunran's first wife in Earth OL. They are Iron-level enforcers. This time, Sunran finally realizes they are the 3 wives who didn't press charges against him. Sunran politely greeted his teammates. He begins to joke with them and reminisce about what happened in the bedroom. The girls became shy, so Lan Xin orders everyone to get down to business. She explains that Sunran is now a trainee enforcer and must accumulate qualifications, so he can join everyone on missions after he is promoted to Iron level. Lan Xin tells him to proceed to small, freshly created virtual worlds and complete commissions. She gave Sunran a prepared commission from Sure Virtual Company, and their virtual world is called Dragon Age. Lan Xin reveals that the game is plagued with minor troubles where vampires, werewolves, and evil spirits are popping up everywhere. She says a destroyer has gained control of the world's strongest creature, the giant divine dragon, and the company suspects it is a work of a rival company. Sunran comments he is interested and asks if Lan Xin wants him to be a dragon slayer. However, Lan Xin denied it and says someone is already hired to kill it and Sunran is only there to assist and obtain the qualification of an enforcer. Sunran questions how long will it take and Lan Xin answers that as long as the dragon is slain. He is also rewarded credit points, which is considered cheap but acceptable for Iron-level teams such as Rose of Thorns. Even though Sunran can't use cheats like before, something as simple as protecting someone is no challenge at all. After reading the contract, Sunran intimately asks Lan Xin to send the papers. While she pouts in dissatisfaction, Lan Xin is shocked after reading the display. Percent of the commission will be credited to Rose of Thorns while remaining percent will be used to compensate Earthol's service provider. Sun Ran is surprised upon seeing Lan Xin's face. However, he could only let Lan Xin take all the earning and he will rely on her for support. Lan Xin is speechless after hearing Sun Ran's shamelessness. She accepted his proposal and hold on to the earnings. Seeing her sign the contract, Sun Ran says she can do whatever she wish and as her husband, he will take care of her from now on. Lan Xin is stunned, seeing his smug face. Seeing her spacing off, Care questions why and states they are still discussing the commission. Lan Xin immediately asks forgiveness and reasons she was just thinking about something. Seeing it settled, Sun Ran stands up and declares he will be a bodyguard in Dragon Age. Lan Xin bids farewell and tells him to be careful. In the room, only the three wives remain. Care says Sun Ran is an unfathomable man and it is too risky to work with him. Lan Xin turns to Bai Tingxuan, knowing she's best at reading people. Bai Tingxuan says it will be fine and proclaims Sun Ran as someone worthy of trust. Lan Xin then checks Peng Zhu records and reveals that he had a pretty high status. Would always marry his partners and treat them wholeheartedly. Care comments Sun Ran was very good to her and would accommodate her every whim. Bai Tingxuan then says Sun Ran is not a bad guy but she's not interested and she might have feelings for him in the future. Kier whispers she believes Bai Tingxuan and she is sure Lan Xin is interested in Sun Ran. Lan Xin blushes, saying there is nothing good about Sun Ran and to forget about him. Seeing Lan Xin's flustered face, the girls laugh heartily. Inside Lan Xin's room, Sun Ran breaks through the door. He entered Lan Xin's room and saw her inside the sensorial chair. Sun Ran hacked in to take a quick look and noticed her credit limit is only. He realized she used up all her savings to save him and wonders if she is not afraid he would run away. Sun Ran declares he would not forget what she had done for him. He exits the room and prepares his equipment. Resolve, he will put in some effort to make money and grant Lan Xin's wish to enter the Zenith. Sun Ran sits on his sensorial chair. He smiles and proclaims he is coming to Dragon Age. He is transported in an unknown white space. Sun Ran suspected his connection is interrupted by someone who is likely skilled. Suddenly, a man greets Sun Ran. He says he is glad they had met. Sun Ran is amazed the other party knows his name, realizing it's too late to disconnect. He asks the man for his name. The man introduced himself as the Earth's central AI and he must monitor Sun Ran. He is a dangerous individual. Sun Ran then learned that if not for the AI, his agreement with Lan Xin would have never passed. Relieved it is not an enemy, Sun Ran questioned why he was brought in the white space. The man politely gestured Sun Ran to take a seat, getting straight to the point. The man looks at Sun Ran, saying he is a peerless genius at the game. However, his tackings about cheats have created several conceited disciples who think themselves as saints. The man further explains that this allowed the disciples to ignore the game's rules and live in perpetuity, resulting in conflicts amongst them. Sun Ran broke into sweat, knowing how grave the situation is. The man continues, stating that the trouble is like a powder keg capable of destroying Earth-OL at any moment and might cause turbulence in the real world. This time, the man points at Sun Ran, saying he is the origin of all the problems. Seeing this, Sun Ran asks what should he do. The man gave Sun Ran options. If he refused to cooperate, he will be deemed as a terrorist and the ultra-military satellite weapon that is in space, the Finger of God will be activated. It will obliterate Lan Xin and Sun Ran's physical bodies in the real world. Sun Ran was staggered upon hearing the consequences. The man smiles, saying the second option, where Sun Ran needed to help in getting rid of the Saints and ensure that Earth-OL can operate stably. If the Saints die, the entirety of debt will be written off and Lan Xin and Sun Ran will have a place in the Zenith to live comfortably. Hearing everything, Sun Ran muttered he doesn't have a choice. He seriously said he doesn't have the highest level of administrative rights and he can't use cheats with the restrictions in place. Knowing his disciples are very cunning, Sun Ran decides to let himself get promoted to gold level enforcer and enter Earth-OL to avoid alarming them. Finally, he asked the central AI to cooperate with him, in which the AI gladly accepts. The central AI informed that it will tamper with the purchase records and legalize cheat engines that Sun Ran can use to avoid any unwanted situations. The flow of time in Earth-OL was slowed down and the central AI gave Sun Ran a year to prepare, equivalent to 100 years in Earth-OL. Sun Ran acknowledged the situation, knowing that if he want to become a gold-level enforcer, he must complete his Dragon Age mission and obtain qualification first. A while later, Sun Ran's legal status is confirmed and a portal for Dragon Age has emerged. Before entering, Sun Ran is reminded of the virtual laws and discovered he could only use cheats that are level and below. With excitement, Sun Ran entered the portal. He is teleported in the middle of a forest. Sun Ran was suffering injuries and grunted in pain. He had possessed the body of a player whose game time is coming to an end. Finding the enforcers must have operated this way. While he was in a daze, a huge beast suddenly appears. Right off the bat, he encountered a life-threatening situation. Sun Ran guessed the Sure Virtual Company wants to see if he can use his weapons to defeat the beast as a test of his abilities, and if he failed, he would be kicked outright. Away, in the Dragon Age's supervision headquarters, the assessment has begun. While many have failed in the assessment, Dragon Age's chief inspector, Chen Hansheng, calmly looks at the proceedings and knows it's not easy to become an enforcer. In the forest, the weather is extremely good. Sun Ran threw away his bow, recalling that mages exist legally in this world. Knowing that is the case, Sun Ran started experimenting. In the headquarters, Chen Hansheng saw Sun Ran and thought he was playing dead and must be a useless piece of meat. It was then he realized he was wrong. Sun Ran was finished, calmly proclaiming he will make do with the generic cheat he just created. The beast was ready and pounced against him with incredible speed while Sun Ran stayed unafraid, standing still like a statue. As the beast arrived in front of him, Sun Ran remained unmoved. In the headquarters, the woman asks Chen Hansheng if the kid has been scared silly, but he only asked her to be quiet. His gaze was on the display, analyzing if Sun Ran is an idiot or a pro. Sun Ran evaded the beast while the rune he laid was activated. The beast's eyes widened in surprise. The level magic frost rune bloomed and threw the beast up in the air. The fight continues and Sun Ran activated level magic, Ice Sting. However, the low-level skill is easily dodged and the angered beast attacked again relentlessly. Sun ran as he was chased by the monstrous tiger, thinking it was stupid. While Sun Ran was in palm's reach, the beast fell into his trap. A magic circle was activated while the beast was inside it, incapable to move. In just a blink, the beast was frozen while Sun Ran covered himself from the monstrous roar. The people inside the headquarters were shocked after seeing Sun Ran's display of moves. Chen Hansheng asked his assistant to look Sun Ran up. For he is skilled and had adequate understanding of the cheats, the assistant readily agreed. In the white space, the central AI was staring on his display. It shows Sun Ran's information, modified by the central AI. Back in the Dragon Age headquarters, the information of Sun Ran is displayed, having a clean record, and a skilled magic user. Thereafter, Chen Hansheng discovered there are only Sun Ran and 2 others out of the original people. This time, Chen Hansheng declared the assessment is complete and the heroes will be listed as guards. Back to Sun Ran, he received a notification, informing him of clearing the assessment. He is also informed there were 2 others who passed. The first one is Rum, who is a warrior from the Warrior Guild. The other one is Jasmine, who is an illusionist from the Mage Guild. Sun Ran then switched off the display. Now, the official commission will begin. Sun Ran stood atop cliff, overlooking the sea. Beyond the sea is the territory of his upcoming enemy, a dragon, controlled by a destroyer, deemed as an invincible entity by the players. Dragon Age. Dragon Age is a small world with 3 dragons for the players to slay and obtain glory. Sun Ran's mission is to head for Cloud City and assist Baron Charlie, a bronze-level enforcer, to get rid of the destroyers controlling the dragons. Realizing the communication is intercepted, Sun Ran immediately interrupted the connection. Knowing the Sure Company is way too green, Sun Ran decides to warn them for their unsafe operations. Meanwhile, the people in the headquarters are startled, seeing Sun Ran's strange actions. After their connection is rejected, Chen Hansheng decides to check Sun Ran's situation. In the forest, Chen Hansheng saw words, informing the headquarters about the danger the enforcers were in. His face turned grim. Chen Hansheng commanded to focus on monitoring the Cloud City. At the same time, Cloud City is in a sea of fire, raging like an inferno, and above it is a dragon, spewing disaster everywhere. Cloud City is under attack. The people were helpless as they watched their friends get fried by scorching heat. Back at the headquarters, everyone is in a panic, searching for Charlie, who is supposed to battle against the destroyers. This time, they receive a message, recommending a passive observation to avoid exposing them. Chen Hansheng gritted his teeth in anger, knowing he had been careless. With resolute voice, he commanded to prepare the divine punishment and they would blast the dragon apart. As they prepared, a bit of time is needed and it's recommended for an enforcer to cooperate, to increase the chances of dealing a fatal blow. Right then, they found Charlie's whereabouts. In the Cloud City, the dragon continues on its rampage. They could see Charlie, hiding behind a wall in the building nearby, waiting for the right moment to attack. Seeing this, Chen Hansheng is distressed, knowing Charlie only had the strength of his body in real life. The dragon continued to rain down fires everywhere. The squad fights back, launching arrows as a counterattack. However, the dragon's defenses were outstanding. In retaliation, the dragon burned the archers into a crisp. Charlie saw this and knew their effort was useless. The divine punishment is not ready, but enforcers can't remain cowards. Charlie has to take down the enemy. The dragon flew towards the building where Charlie is hiding. This time, Charlie came out of his hiding place. However, all he saw was an empty sky. Suddenly, a dragon roar was heard and the building crumbled on its weight as Charlie struggled under the falling debris. The dragon towered everything. It breathed fire and satisfaction after the chaos it had spread. Amidst the destruction, a hand grabbed at the edge of the tower. Charlie is dangling on the tower. Below is a sea of fire. He got nowhere to go but up. He gritted his teeth in anger. Unfortunately, the tower finally gave up. It crumbled as the dragon flew away. As Charlie fell, he realized the dragon had not discovered him yet. With his courage, Charlie brought his feet up. He charged towards the dragon, holding his sword for a sneak attack. The dragon was clueless, not until Charlie appeared within its reach. However, it was too late and Charlie had already swung his sword. The dragon was beheaded as the sword flashed on its neck. Charlie stepped on the dragon as it fell. He returned to what was left of the ruined tower. One by one, the people emerged from their hiding spots. They pointed at Charlie as they saw the head of the vanquished beast. On top, Charlie stood valiantly as the people cheered on his heroic deed. His effort paid off. Back in the headquarters, Chen Hansheng cheered after the victory. The divine punishment will be on standby for the remaining dragons. They discussed the casualties and the availability of resurrection. More than 100 players as losses would be bearable and Chen Hansheng would compensate. Then with game time, as he was making a decision, a report about the 3 trainee enforcers came. The warrior was stabbed to death. The illusionist has escaped with her illusion arts. This time, the assistant was shocked as she saw Sun Ran being ambushed. Somewhere, a skull army was summoned. Standing heroically, Sun Ran alone faced the army. The necromancer arrogantly asked him if he would commit suicide or accept a ride to hell. However, Sun Ran smiled confidently, casting spells to prepare for a fight. The necromancer roared in laughter after seeing Sun Ran's low-level spells. He had level staff to enhance his strength. How would Sun Ran fight him? His army alone would tear Sun Ran to pieces. However, Sun Ran was unafraid. He launched his spells as the army attacked him in a frenzy. A skeleton sneaked an attack which Sun Ran noticed as if he had eyes on the back of his head. Sun Ran jumped and left a rune in his position. The spell activated, freezing some of the skeletons. While in the air, Sun Ran conjured more spells. A freezing tornado appeared and a rain of ice fell from the sky. Sun Ran stepped on the crystal of ice. Below him laid his defeated enemies and the shocked army of skeletons. His skeletons were brittle, but it would be difficult to fight an army. However, Sun Ran could continuously cast Ice Sting and did not look a bit tired. Unfortunately, puny ants won't be able to struggle for long as the necromancer finally summoned his champion. A huge hand appeared from the deep pit. A giant stood tall as an aura of death surged from it. Sun Ran knew it was a level giant. The grounds trembled after the giant started running towards Sun Ran. Its skin is tough. Sun Ran's magic could not deal a bit of damage. With one swing, the crystal of ice was reduced to pieces. Sun Ran jumped and dashed backwards. He was encircled by an army of skeletons. Sun Ran continued his attacks, leaving runes for traps while he ran away. Rune trap after rune trap, Sun Ran fought calmly. Faced with the giant again, Sun Ran prepared another trap. As the giant approached, prepared to swing its bat, Sun Ran's spell activated. The giant's foot was frozen in place. Back in the headquarters, Chen Hansheng could not believe Sun Ran's moves. He wanted to see how far could Sun Ran fight with his low-level spells. Back to the fight, the necromancer laughed at how futile Sun Ran's struggles were. However, Sun Ran calmly smiled and dashed towards the necromancer. This time, the necromancer began to run as he realized Sun Ran only wanted to hold the giant to kill him first. Sun Ran fired a barrage of ice stings toward the necromancer. However, his attack was blocked. The necromancer sacrificed his summons to save himself. Sun Ran's attacks continued while the necromancer crawled and hid behind a huge rock. The necromancer wondered if Sun Ran was casting ice stings or a sniper rifle. However, he was confident in the remnants of his army and the giant. Speaking of the giant, it finally broke through the ice trap. With a roar, it dashed towards Sun Ran, who was casting ice sting continuously. In the headquarters, Chen Hansheng commanded his assistant to give Sun Ran a hand. In the battlefield, Sun Ran continued casting spells after spells. Chen Hansheng was startled, seeing Sun Ran cast spells with seconds of each other, as if he was dual casting. Sun Ran had exceeded the limits of his level. He started casting another spell with all his might. The giant swung its bat as Sun Ran slammed the ground and a magic circle bloomed in its place. The giant was inside the circle. It brought down its bat, going for Sun Ran's head. His eyes showed determination. Sun Ran believed he would not die today. A huge ice crystal bloomed. It shone brightly amidst the chaos. Behind the rock, the necromancer observed as silence spread through the air. He turned to look. A wide smile appeared on his face. His enemy must have suffered from the giant's blow. Suddenly, he was beheaded and his head fell while his face was still in shock. Sun Ran smiles. He did not believe his enemy would fall for his trick. This time, Sun Ran happily claims victory. The necromancer laid on the ground. His summons, the skeletons and the giant, began to fade away. In the headquarters, everyone celebrated Sun Ran's victory. Chen Hansheng is amazed by Sun Ran, the living embodiment of an ice mage. Sun Ran looted the necromancer and discovered nothing good. The level staff he obtained was enough for him. From now on, he would not injure himself when casting spells of level and below. It was a pity he did not have a legal level spell to be able to use the staff to the fullest. As that thought came to mind, Sun Ran was notified. He had been granted level permissions, and with Sure Company acting as his guarantor, he is now promoted to an Iron Enforcer. He had a basic commission fee of credit points, and the mission contribution evaluation system had been activated. It was a wonderful system that only enforcers had access to, and the AI would be used to evaluate one's contributions. The higher his contribution would be, the higher the commission fee he would get. Right now, he wondered how the bronze enforcer in Cloud City was doing. Later, the dragon's head could be seen. It was pasted in front of Cloud City's gate for everyone to marvel at. Sunran saw the cut was clean and recognized Charlie's skills. He decided to go inside the city to check some leads. Inside, all he found were scorched earth and debris. Sunran heard someone's voice telling him to give up. He immediately activated Golden Gaze, a level support skill, allowing him to see through illusions. The girl, clueless that her illusion was seen through, explained she had already searched the area. Everything was burnt down, leaving not a single lead. Sunran introduced himself as Russell, his in-game name, and asked the girl, who was hiding nearby, to show herself if she wanted to say something. The girl silently showed herself. She introduced herself as Jasmine, an escort guard like him. She said Charlie was a bronze enforcer, and if he wanted to go into hiding, he would not leave a single trace. Sunran agreed with her, concluding nothing of value was left. They decided to go, and as they were both tired on their journey, they decided to find a place to rest. Later, they entered a building. Inside, Sunran ordered 2 meals. Jasmine approached Sunran, whispering why he was openly asking about Charlie along the way and exposing themselves in a crowded place. She emphasized the dangerous hordes of assassins hired by the destroyers to watch them. Sunran told her to relax because there were many guards on duty in the city at this moment. He believed the assassins would not attack in a public place, and if the assassins moved to kill them, there would not be any problem if they respond carefully. All he had done was to give Charlie the signal they were out here and wait until Charlie came to them. Despite his assurance, she was worried, unsure if Charlie would come. She believed that the longer they waited, the more dangerous it was and the assassins would arrive later. Sunran calmly told her the assassins had come a long time ago and they were just waiting for the right moment to strike. She immediately looked around and asked where the assassins were. Although she was in a panic, Sunran told her not to worry and that it would be fine. After observing the girl for a while, Sunran concluded the girl was smart to respond to any situation, but she was lacking enough experience. Soon, the waitress delivered their meal and told them to enjoy the meal. Sunran grabbed her hand and gave her a tip while Jasmine was stunned, seeing he was taking the money from her purse. The waitress was delighted and sent him a flying kiss. While he was blushing, Jasmine quickly took her purse, scolding Sunran for using her money to flirt. After the waitress left, Sunran replied he would pay Jasmine with her life. He poured some liquid into her food and a cloud of toxic gas emerged. She checked her food with magic and did not detect any abnormalities, realizing the poison only reacted once mixed with other substances. With a smile, Sunran showed the antidote and told her that he stole it from the waitress. Now, they can eat after scattering it on top. While Jasmine wondered how he knew the waitress was an assassin, Sunran revealed it was lucky guess, as though indirectly saying it was his secret. At this moment, a hooded figure walked in. He stepped towards Sunran's way. Both of them immediately noticed the approaching figure. After lifting up his hood enough for them to see, he introduced himself as Baron Charlie. Sunran replied it was an honor to meet him and introduced himself as Russell, and as soon as he introduced Jasmine, she immediately slammed the table as she stood from her seat. She was suspicious of the man who appeared out of nowhere and requested to prove his identity. Baron Charlie then asked Sunran to let her know how to confirm his identity. So Sunran started to mention that a person with a shrouded face arrived at the bar. However, no one was curious about him and the boss did not give him a second glance, indicating he was a regular. A mysterious person in Cloud City who made a beeline for them was none other than Charles. Hearing his answer, Baron Charlie could not help but compliment Sunran. He told them they had passed the first test and earned the right to work with him, making the girl clueless. She then realized Baron Charlie was the one who wanted to poison them, making her furious. He told her that they were not teammates at that time and that if she wished to become a qualified enforcer, she should be smart, otherwise he would not accept a deadweight. Turning around, Charlie asked them to come with him to the room he had booked on the second floor. Inside the room, Charlie revealed they were dealing with a very troublesome destroyer who was probably a member of the infamous Scorpion Mercenary Regiment in real life, causing Jasmine to ask who were they in confusion. Sunran told her they were an infamous destroyer organization known throughout the world. They generally focus on games where they always aim to defeat their opponent through vicious means. All their members were wanted terrorists, and if any of them were exposed, the finger of God would instantly activate to obliterate them. Later, Charlie would fight against the Dragon King had a level body structure and could switch freely between human and dragon forms. Right now, it had not appeared in public because it was in search of the divine commandment ring that was used to create the world. However, once the dragon found the divine ring, it would spell doom, destroying the world in an instant, and if it happened, their mission would be deemed an utter failure. Shocked, Jasmine asked why they allowed the item to exist. Charlie explained he did not know either, and it was probably a result of a moment of folly on the game company's part. Sunran thought there was no way to destroy things made with the game's data. Just like the jade butterfly of creation of, the one who obtained the ring would gain the highest administration rights, making them the strongest individual in that world, capable of controlling everything. Right now, they have two options. The first was to annihilate the Dragon King with divine punishment, but it required cooperation of more people, and the three of them were far from enough. Their second choice was to find the divine commandment ring that was used to create the world and use it to defeat the Dragon King. However, the divine commandment ring was a random drop, and even the game company did not know its appearance. Sunran agreed it was hard, but searching for things was his specialty. He asked Charlie if the game company informed him of the tale of the world's creation, to which Charlie replied it was a local legend. Sunran smiled and told them the legend proved that someone had obtained the item in the past and achieved great feats, leaving their legend to survive the test of time. Charlie found it possible, but there were too many books about legends, making it difficult to find clues. Sunran told them there were three main tiers in the upper class in the world's structure. Out of the three, nobility and religion could be left out, and only sorcery could be considered, as sorcerers were known as truth seekers, people who valued historical truth, and they should start with them. Charlie thought of the Sorcerer Academy at Argus Peak, where the incumbent archmage could be found. He suddenly thought of a possibility and remembered the divine weapon, Sure Staff, which had been passed down from generation to generation and had existed since the creation of Dragon Age. Unfortunately, Argus Peak was far away from Cloud City, and the danger they would encounter on the road could not be underestimated. It was then that Sunran thought of an idea. He said the three of them should die first. After Jasmine asked why they should die, Sunran explained that they needed to possess new bodies. Once they died, their consciousness could possess 3 bodies near the Summer Palace, cutting down their traveling time. Everyone thought it was a good idea. Charlie immediately arranged everything, and their weapon would be delivered by a giant eagle. To avoid imbalance in game, Charlie needed to destroy their bodies first. Jasmine instantly trembled in fear. She questioned why they could not be teleported directly or transformed into a dragon to fly, since it was much easier. Sunran explained that teleportation would disturb the game balance and would cause severe losses, and transforming into other creatures was also banned, as players may struggle to adapt after returning to the real world. While her eyes welled in tears, Charlie asked her if she was ready to die. She could not help but cry and thanked Russell. She was not prepared to die at all. The next second, Charlie mercilessly cut their heads. Soon, Sunran was sent into the virtual web space of the. With his current speed of thought, he had managed to obtain a clear sense of the virtual world and memorized its appearance and the flow of its data. He saw large amounts of data convergence at Argus Peak and realized there was a huge possibility that the divine ring was nearby, and he must find it before the destroyer discovered the situation. Soon, on the snowy Argus Peak, Sunran woke up, feeling cold. He saw a trembling, muscled man who he assumed to be Charlie and called him out. However, the man stammered and called for Russell, but his face was full of tears. With a horrified look, Sunran realized the man was Jasmine. She dove toward him and cried, feeling awkward about having an extra lump of meat between her legs. While Sunran tried to comfort Jasmine, Charlie's laughter rang through their ears. He explained that the higher-ups might be unconcerned or did not find a suitable body, leaving them no choice but to assign a male body to her. As she continued to cry, she hurried them to finish the mission as she was suffering uncomfortably. Sunran told her to wait for a bit for their weapons, as it would be tough if they encountered beasts amidst the snowstorm. In his mind, Sunran guessed the divine commandment ring was split into at least 4 fragments, and one of them was at Argus Peak. If his thoughts were correct, the Sure Staff was one of the fragments, and he could not let it fall into the hands of the Dragon King. Soon, Charlie said their weapons had arrived. Before Sunran could reply, 2 dragons suddenly appeared in the sky. They quickly reacted, and Charlie commanded them to find shelter. However, the dragons immediately noticed their movements. The 3 of them ran faster, and if they could find nowhere to hide, they would just run over to the platform and dig a pit to hide in. As if knowing their plan, one of the dragons, the Dragon King itself, emitted a terrifying roar. The next second, an avalanche had been triggered. In the headquarters, Chen Hansheng found out that their plans had been leaked and the destroyer controlled dragons had appeared at Argus Peak. Chen Hansheng realized the destroyer had exceeded his expectations. He hoped everyone could keep their lives. Jasmine kept on screaming at the top of her lungs. Charlie told them there was no escape, but if they could keep their bodies safe, they could be revived. He noticed Sunran digging the snow. He told him he was dreaming, as a snow pit dig in a short amount of time would not be useful. Despite hearing the words, Sunran continued digging, and soon, he was finished. At this moment, the avalanche crashed at them like a tsunami. Even Charlie was helpless in this situation. As soon as the avalanche stopped, none of them were found. It did not take long for the snowy peak to calm down. The Dragon King commanded the small dragon to guard the enforcers' corpses and to kill them over and over, no matter how many times they revive. He decided to go to the Summer Palace. he would look for the fragment of the divine commandment ring. Seeing that the Dragon King was flying towards the Summer Palace, Chen Hansheng commanded his assistant to condense the divine punishment above the Summer Palace and revive the enforcers. The sorcerers in the upper levels of the Summer Palace were VIP players, and if it got destroyed, the company would lose its reputation together with their jobs. Since the opponents were underhanded destroyers, he could only pray that the fragment of the divine commandment ring was not inside the Summer Palace, otherwise it would be obliterated by the divine punishment together with the Dragon King. A pool of blood gathered on top of the snow. Sun Ran had created an ice sphere and kept his life, but the problem was the space lacked oxygen. Outside, the dragon had already its strength. It spewed fire, intending to destroy the bodies of the enforcers. Nearby, Sun Ran's head emerged from the snow. He immediately activated his spell, Golden Gaze. He saw Jasmine and Charlie buried under the snow, and once their physical bodies were destroyed, they would need a new character again. Sun Ran quickly decided to divert the dragon's attention. He immediately cast multiple ice stings with his staff. Caught off guard, the dragon was hit and roared in anger. On the side, it saw Sun Ran and heard his taunting. The dragon spewed fire at him since he was seeking death. Sun Ran then activated his magic staff. Multiple barriers materialized and tried to block the dragon's attack. However, the dragon's fire breath grew intense and instantly shattered the layers of ice. Barriers. Fortunately, Sun Ran was prepared and blocked the fire with the last barrier. In the headquarters, everyone was amazed at Sun Ran's skills. He managed to block the dragon's attack with excellent skill casting. Sun Ran shouted to seek the headquarters' attention and hurried them up to revive Charlie and give him a high-level spell. The headquarters immediately heard Sun Ran's voice. Knowing the success of Sun Ran would determine the company's fate, Chen Hansheng immediately went all in. From his account, he sent Sun Ran the Frost Whirl spell. Soon a ray of light beamed to where Sun Ran stood. His new spell had arrived. Sun Ran thanked the headquarters and called out the dragon. He would let it taste his ultimate move. On the other hand, the dragon was notified by the Dragon King about Sun Ran's spell. However, the dragon could only be injured by level spells, but Sun Ran, a level mage, blocked its dragon breath. For its safety, the dragon decided to kill Sun Ran before he could cast the spell. In the headquarters, they saw Sun Ran start to multitask, and they did not believe Sun Ran could grasp a level spell within a blink of an eye. Chen Hansheng knew that a player needed to remember a spell's complicated data structure and undergo a long period of data control training to cast the spell. However, if Sun Ran managed to do all this in just a few seconds, then he had obtained an unprecedented achievement. Nearby, Charlie and Jasmine emerged from the snow. They were amazed after they saw Sun Ran's battle against the dragon and decided to help him. Charlie quickly searched for his weapon, the dragon's demise, since it could pose a threat to the fire dragon. Meters away, he found his sword and ran to pick it up. Jasmine reacted fast and helped Charlie. She created a couple of clones and let them run in different directions to confuse the dragon. In different places, the clones of his sword also appeared, showing Jasmine's reliability. Noticing their movement, the dragon realized the other enforcers were revived. It turned around as it could not let Charlie obtain his weapon. This time, a smile appeared on Sun Ran's face. It's time to use his ultimate move. Helpless, the dragon could only abandon his desire to interfere with Charlie's goal and face Sun Ran's ultimate move. Soon, a crystallized dragon maw charged toward the dragon with frightening speed. However, the attack shattered, leaving the dragon undamaged. An annoyed expression replaced the dragon's ruthless face. Even in the headquarters, everyone was dumbfounded. Chen Hansheng was scammed for buying a skill with credit points, not expecting Sun Ran was only stalling for time. The dragon's nose flared with fire, realizing it was deceived. It finally turned around and attacked the Charlies. The huge ball of wire scattered everywhere, approaching Charlie's back. He jumped for his sword, leaving his life to fate. Sun Ran quickly assisted and cast a spell. A barrier materialized, intending to block the fireball. Not only one, not only two, but 3 Charlies safely got their weapons back, thanks to Sun Ran's timely assistance. Now that he had his blade, it was time for the dragon to clean its neck. The Charlies immediately attacked. Jasmine activated her spell, boosting Charlie's combat strength. Charlie's shadow clone technique activated, further angering the dragon. The dragon breathed fire, but it was useless. It did not know which was real. The dragon decided to retreat, realizing its disadvantage. However, a frost rune suddenly appeared on top of its head. It bloomed with cold radiance, and as the dragon was caught unprepared, the spell stopped its flight. The dragon was smashed back to the ground, causing a massive shockwave of snow. Sun Ran was exhilarated at the sight of the dragon falling into his trap. The dragon released a furious roar, declaring everyone's eventful death. However, Charlie was already over the dragon's head. With a cold glint in his eyes, Charlie swung his sword with all his might. Sure enough, a clean cut separated the dragon's body from its head. With a thud, the dragon fell limply on the snowy ground. Charlie was full of praise. Their awesome teamwork was to his liking. Even the muscle man Jasmine could not help but jump with joy. Only Sun Ran was calm, breathing a sigh of relief. Now, there was only one enemy left, but was also the most troublesome one. In a mysterious place, a man holding a magical staff wondered where he was. His name was Aiken, the Archmage of the Summer Palace. Soon, an entity appeared in front of him. It was the divine emissary of Shura's supreme god and had come to convey God's will. Later, at the Summer Palace meeting hall, a few people could be seen. At the head of the table, Aiken slowly opened his eyes. Noticing his movement, the people around showed delighted expressions. However, contrary to their joyful faces, Aiken showed a serious face. He told them about the divine emissary and the news of the Dragon King's betrayal of their supreme god. Moreover, the Summer Palace would be attacked and an impending calamity would strike the continent. Everyone was shocked at the sudden reveal, knowing the Dragon King would become the most terrifying opponent they would face. Aiken calmed everyone and told them about the incoming dragon slayers who would lend their support. He waved his hand. The next second, a screen materialized showing the Dragon King's arrival. Aiken immediately commanded to activate the defense formation and everyone must prevent the breach of the barrier. After the meeting, Aiken decided to meet the Dragon King. The people of Summer Palace immediately react. Around the place, more and more of them had gathered. Everyone raised their hands and concentrate their powers. As soon as the Dragon King arrived, the defense formation was also activated. The Dragon King steadily flew above everyone, sending shockwaves with every flap of its wings. It greeted everyone and followed with a bit of farewell. The next second, ominous energy burst forth from its mouth, the shadow flame. The massive energy engulfed the defense formation and brought it to the brink of collapse. Everyone held their breaths and tried to keep their calm as they maintained the barrier. Later, Aiken flew through the sky on top of a massive ice bird and confronted the Dragon King. He declared it was not the place for it to run wild. With a snort of contempt, the Dragon King's eyes glimmered with radiance. In a flash, a phantom dashed toward Aiken's way. Through the smoke, someone's foot could be seen. The Dragon King had transformed into its humanoid form. Looking above, he saw the divine punishment in preparation. He needed to enter the Summer Palace first, and once the divine punishment was ready, the VIP player's life and death would be for him to dictate. With a wave of his hand, a terrifying energy flashed ahead. The next second, the barrier maintained by thousands of people was mercilessly slashed open. Everyone collapsed to the ground, vomiting blood with disbelief on their faces. The Dragon King smiled and introduced himself. He was the battle god Morflon. Now he wondered who would dare stop him. A terrified expression appeared on Aiken's face. Morflon needed to pass through the time hall first, but once he entered the inner section of the academy, the consequences would be unimaginable. Aiken immediately flew over and was prepared to defend. Inside the time hall, Aiken walked with nervous strides. He must not let the enemy take a step inside, even if he had to sacrifice his title as an Archmage for it. The time hall was empty and quiet. Suddenly, a stone statue's head broke through the walls. As the smoke dissipated, Aiken finally got a clear look and anger immediately surged in his heart. It was the head of the Summer Palace's founding Archmage statue. Morflon greeted Aiken, the esteemed Archmage, asking if he was happy with the gift. Gritting his teeth in anger, Aiken questioned what did he want. With a smile, Morflon asked for the staff and would leave once he got it. In his thought, however, he decided to kill the Archmage to give the game company some problems to deal with, leaving him some room to be free. The staff was slammed hard against the ground. Aiken roared in anger. The Dragon King Morflon was the son of Shura's supreme god, yet he committed the sin of betraying his father. However, Morflon was unconcerned and slashed his sword, opening a fissure throughout the time hall's wall. Now, the Dragon King would take the item by force. On the side, a group of followers offered their support. They gathered behind Aiken and chanted a defensive formation. With the barrier around, even a level skill would be ineffective. Morflon cast his attack. With a slash of his sword, chains of lightning charged forward upon his command. The Archmage's barrier made level kills cast from others ineffective, and if he was an ordinary dragon, he might even get killed. However, he was not ordinary. Morflon condensed a flame on his palm. With a push of his hand, horrifying blasts of flame burst forth. Aiken's eyes widened in disbelief. The dense power broke his barrier without difficulty. One of his followers could not stand the impact and vomited blood. Now there were only barriers left, and once Morflon got close, it would be over. The strength he used was only in his human form, and once he became a dragon, everyone would be wiped out in an instant. Aiken could not believe that his Summer Palace, which stood for thousands of years, would get destroyed today. Outside, Sunran's party had gathered in the sky. While Jasmine showed a terrified expression because of their altitude, Sunran noticed that divine punishment had taken shape. Suddenly, the bird in charge of Jasmine lost its final ounce of strength and gave up holding her. She directly fell from the sky and crashed into the time hall. While Jasmine's horrified scream echoed through, everyone was stunned in place. Morflon immediately dashed away, evading the falling man. On the ground, Jasmine fell unconscious as though her soul left her body. Aiken stammered, recognizing the Dragon Slayer's arrival. Morflon immediately attacked, knowing the man was an enforcer. Suddenly, a sword glowing with tremendous energy dropped from the sky. It instantly separated the Dragon King, preventing him from harming Jasmine. Sun ran and Charlie followed and also fell from the sky, and while Sun ran asked Jasmine. In concern, Charlie assured him with the build of the body she possessed, she would be fine. Finally, Sun Ran's party gathered together, facing the Dragon King. Charlie raised his sword. Now that he had killed Dragon's subordinates, Dragon King Morflan would be the third. The followers were relieved. Their savior, the Dragon Slayer, had finally come. Right now, Morflan had a displeased expression. Sun Ran warned Morflan's weapon and equipment were level. Charlie replied it would be difficult to defeat the Dragon King with their current abilities. Sun Ran said the divine punishment had already taken shape and all they needed to do was to coordinate with the mages and use it to obliterate the dragon. Charlie agreed and activated his skill. The clothes on his body were instantly torn into pieces. His muscles contorted and they were filled with strength. With his skill, Golden Shell, now activated, Charlie charged forward. In the headquarters, Chen Hansheng was fired up. Seeing a bronze enforcer in action, his 20,000 credit points payment was worth it. He immediately commanded everyone to monitor all the destroyer's moves. The divine punishment would be activated once the destroyer entered the line of fire. Looking at the screen, Chen Hansheng left his future in Charlie's hands. Aiken commanded his followers to hold the Dragon King back. With their support, Charlie charged at Morflan. On the other hand, Morflan appeared to be helpless against them. However, when Charlie was near, Morflan displayed a skill. It was a level skill. Sun Ran warned Charlie to watch out. Charlie was alarmed, but the skill was already thrown at him. Jasmine quickly reacted, activating her illusionary arts. Charlie multiplied. The attack burst through the clone, leaving Charlie unscathed. With a bright smile, he thanked Jasmine and gave her his approval. Morflan smirked in disdain. The clones were only parlor tricks in front of him. Another beam of shadow flame burst forth from his hands, sending another wave of illusions. To hell, Charlie braced himself, unsure if he could withstand the blow. Out of thin air, an ice barrier materialized, blocking the shadow flames. It was Sun Ran's skill. With a wide smile, Charlie moved forward again, not forgetting to compliment Sun Ran's excellence. Everything did not escape Morflan's eyes. After seeing his ability, he decided to attack Sun Ran first. Charlie was quick to respond. He blocked Morflan's attack with a swing of his sword. Sun Ran immediately assisted. While he cast multiple frost runes to face Morflan's attack, Aiken continued his suppression. He was amazed at Sun Ran's party's teamwork. On the other hand, Morflan was starting to get annoyed. Suddenly he shouted at everyone, asking for help. Aiken was startled by this. The next second, a blade pierced him from his back. Aiken could not help but vomit a mouthful of blood. Everyone was shocked at the sudden development of the situation. They have a traitor on their side. He was Morflan's undercover agent. Aiken, who was weakened and on his knees, cast a spell with the last ounce of his strength. The electric arcs shot through the ground and sparks flew everywhere. Aiken did not escape unharmed. Even his followers were roasted. In the headquarters, Chen Hansheng trembled on the spot. With Aiken and his mages now dead, their chance to win seemed bleak. Contrary to everyone's gloominess, Morflan was happy. His pawn played a critical role. Right now, without Aiken's restraint, he could not be defeated. Charlie charged at Morflan, who was in joy. The moment they collided, shockwaves of electric arcs bombarded the room and fissures filled the ground. Although Charlie's skill could not be underestimated, in the face of a level dragon blade, his level weapon and body could not compare. Soon, Morflan's sword got the upper hand. Charlie's sword shattered and Morflan's blade slashed at his body. Jasmine was shocked at Charlie's defeat. Now, Dragon Slayer was dead. Morflan arrogantly stepped on Charlie's corpse and asked who would stop him again. In the headquarters, the alarm sounded. They were now in an emergency, so Chen Hansheng requested for higher-ranked enforcers, but his assistant told him they were still recruiting. It was over. It was the thought Chen Hansheng only had right now. Morflan approached Aiken's corpse. When he was just a step away, he was frozen in place. He noticed that something seemed to be missing. He carefully took a look and realized the divine weapon was not in Aiken's hand. It was then that Sun Ran asked Morflan if he was looking for the staff. The sure staff was in Sun Ran's hand. Morflan's anger erupted. His divine weapon was stolen when he was not paying attention. Soon after, balls of shadow flame rained towards Sun Ran's way. Multiple barriers materialized out of thin air, accurately blocking all of the balls of shadow flame. With the level staff, Sun Ran's spells were further amplified. Morflan knew Sun Ran's ice sting was only level, so he asked him for another trick. In response, Sun Ran cast huge ice stings. A bunch of them shot toward Morflan with frightening speed. Although he was unharmed, being hit by ice stings every second made him extremely annoyed. On the side, Jasmine was amazed at how strong Sun Ran was. With his skills, she believed he was worthy of being hailed as the leader of mages. In the headquarters, they were shocked after they saw Morflan get suppressed by Sun Ran's attacks. Sun Ran's smile widened as he mocked Morflan for being beaten down by ice stings. However, Morflan had other concerns. It was that the ice stings would reduce the time haul into pieces, and once the divine punishment took good aim at him, he would be obliterated. Thinking of this, Morflan used his last resort. From where he stood, whirls of energy built up as arcs of lightning vibrated through the There. Soon, he transformed into a huge dragon. It was then that Sun Ran thought of something. With a smile, Morflon asked if he would admit defeat. However, Sun Ran replied he had received a level frost whirl and he wondered what it would be like if he cast it with his divine staff. Soon, an icy wind blew and gathered around Sun Ran, causing ice to bloom all over his feet. In the headquarters, Chen Hansheng was stunned at how fast Sun Ran grasped the spell he had given. He decided to look up Sun Ran's information. After a moment, the assistant was shocked, finding out that Sun Ran was a genius. By the age of he had already played different games, and although he was not a VIP, he achieved glory in each game. Apart from martial arts, he had mastered all things. Moreover, he was once a great mage in the which is a silver rank world. Knowing that was among the most complete magic-type virtual worlds, Chen Hansheng believed Sun Ran had some skills as a great mage and grasping new spells would be easy for him. However, Morflon would not give Sun Ran a chance and directly launch an attack with the intent to kill. But it was too late. A continuous frost whirl was chanted and flew toward Morflon. The barrage pushed him against the wall, creating cracks all over the place. As soon as the skill stopped, Morflon was buried beneath the smoke and debris. Finally, Morflon was angered. How dare a puny ant dream of defeating him? However, he was suddenly overcome by a chill on his spine, hearing Sun Ran could kill him with a frost whirl alone. Morflon could not believe it and asked Sun Ran who he was. The sure staff struck the ground. Sun Ran answered he was just an ordinary player who was now an enforcer. Out of thin air, dozens of frost whirl emerged. Morflon was shaken and in disbelief at what he was seeing. He was hit without pause and the force smashed him through the wall. Everyone immediately saw Morflon, who was sent outside. They were shocked after seeing the Dragon King's body riddled with injuries. The next moment, they saw Sun Ran emerge with the sure staff in his hand. Morflon was unconvinced by his defeat and roared in anger. Sun Ran then proclaimed it was too late for Morflon to retaliate. In the headquarters, Chen Hansheng commanded to activate the divine punishment. Without hesitation, the assistant followed the command. A heavenly lightning from the sky struck the Dragon King. As he slowly shattered into pieces, his horrified roar echoed through the Argus Peak. In a building in the real world, one of the virtual facilities exploded. From within, they could hear someone's cry for help. On the sensorial chair, a man appeared to be fried to death. In front of him showed the notification: the battle god Morflon died. In the summer palace, the mages gathered and cheered for Sun Ran's victory. Now that the Dragon King was killed and Akin was dead, everyone hailed Sun Ran as the new Archmage. Finally, Sun Ran could sigh in relief. Nearby, an entity emerged. It introduced itself as the emissary of the supreme god of Shure and declared its admiration for Sun Ran's intelligence and strength. The emissary then invited Sun Ran to the holy kingdom of Shure. Sun Ran agreed and thought that the mission was now complete. Behind him, he noticed Jasmine. She had a hesitant look on her muscled face. However, Sun Ran let her be, and even though he had a good impression of her, he decided to part since every game was different and separate from real life. Soon, Sun Ran's victory and the Dragon King's defeat were announced to the world of Dragon Age. From then on, Sun Ran's legend was born that would last for eternity. As for Sun Ran, he was teleported out of the game. In a garden mansion, a man watched the news about a gamer's death in a gaming facility in the Common Ground district. The man then connects to the Darknet. After a moment, everyone gathered in the Scorpion mercenary troop encrypted Darknet. Number tells everyone about Number 4's death and mentions that everyone must have seen the recording of his last battle. Number affirms and asks if they would avenge their comrade. Number tells them to observe since their opponent was a destroyer before he became an enforcer and could not be underestimated, but Number did not mind his warning and believed that killing their opponent will be a piece of cake. Number told Number not to be reckless, and he further explained that right now, security was tight and it would be better to avoid taking commissions for the next 6 months, but Number was unconvinced and believed the enforcers were just a bunch of idiots. And with their 10 years of operation experience, there was no need to be overly cautious. Number turned serious and expressed how they, who were hiding in the shadows, had no right to be careless. On the side, Number agreed, but it only made Number retort in anger since he knew what he was doing. Seeing that no one wanted to conform with him, he decided to go. Without hesitation, his figure disappeared. Back to the real world, Number complained about the bunch of cowardly bastards who were scared of a guy who only had a little talent. Now that no one wanted to avenge Number, he would do it himself. In the Common Ground district, Sun Ran remained seated in his sensorial chair. After the mission, he received merit points from the Enforcers Alliance, and as a reward for obtaining a legendary evaluation grade, he received times the commission fee, totaling credit points. Sun Ran logged out from the game while exclaiming how his heart raced despite the effortless Iron Grade mission. The door opened and Lan Xin emerged, asking him how his mission had gone. Sun Ran happily brought out the news, and since he obtained merits, it would not be long to earn merits to become a bronze enforcer. Lan Xin cheered and told him to use his money in buying a nutrient pod to replace his chair since it was bad for his body. Sun Ran agreed and exclaimed how thoughtful his wife is, making Lan Xin's face red. Sun Ran then asked her about her mission. Lan Xin said they failed in dealing with a destroyer, and a total of 10 teams were wiped out. Time passed by. Sun Ran and Lan Xin appeared outside the Enforcer Alliance's headquarters, the Rubik's Cube of Order. Once they get inside, Lan Xin told everyone the news about Sun Ran becoming a Black Iron Enforcer, and the other wives cheered for him. After sitting down, Lan Xin asked Bai Tingshuan, who was the last one to get eliminated, about the situation inside the game. She answered it was bad and Count Dracula, who was now a duke, had successfully seized the political power of the Duchy of Wallachia, prompting the Middle Ages Gaming Company to hire bronze enforcers for the mission. This time, Sun Ran asked for further details. Bai Tingshuan explained that the world they were dealing with was called a fantasy world based on the European Middle Ages, set in the 10th century, and their target was Duke Dracula. During his childhood, he was sent as a hostage in the capital of the Ottoman Empire, Istanbul, and after his rise in power, he inherited the position of the Duke. In the end, there was nothing wrong with Dracula himself, and everything he had done was legal, except his fate. Sun Ran was interested and asked what his fate was. Bai Tingshuan explained that Dracula spent enough on the game to become a true VIP noble, and his ending should be when his father got killed by the rebel army, the Duchy of Wallachia got overthrown, and he got sent into exile as a civilian. However, he hired destroyers in the real world to help him successfully seize the title of the Duke in the game. Sun Ran then learned that the destroyers Dracula hired were all from the Vampire Guild. Hearing the name, Sun Ran could not help but click his tongue. Lan Xin asked for an update, so Care checked her display and learned that no team had returned to continue the mission. The Black Iron teams thought that the destroyer had the upper hand, and only stronger enforcers had a chance of turning the situation around. Suddenly, she noticed a change in the situation. A solo bronze enforcer codenamed Jing Qi had accepted the commission and entered the game. Sun Ran asked Lan Xin about the commission fee and learned that Black Iron teams were paid credit points per person, with credit points per person as remuneration due to the troublesome opponent, and additional bonuses would be given based on the individual's contribution. Hearing the awesome payment, Sun Ran invited everyone to continue the mission together. Bai Tingshuan was skeptical since their team had been eliminated once, and their request to continue the mission would only be accepted once they proved their team had become stronger. Sun Ran then brought out the news of him receiving a legendary mission evaluation grade and believed it should satisfy the requirement. His wives were stunned and amazed at how Sun Ran obtained such a grade. Sun Ran then expressed that in the virtual worlds of Western civilization, his prowess in alchemy is great. The wives were excited, so Care hurriedly sent a request. Their team, Rose of Thorns, had a new fourth member codenamed Rosebush. Sun Ran believed it was appropriate since he was the best man and protecting maidens as beautiful as roses. On the side, Lan Xin could not help but bore a face of disagreement. Care immediately received a reply, which agreed to their participation in his mission. But since Rosebush was a new member who only showed great spellcasting ability and had little power in the game, his remuneration would only be credit points. Seeing his wife unhappy, Sun Ran showed a smile and told them there was nothing wrong, and they should accept it. Lan Xin then asked Sun Ran if he was confident to succeed. Pointing at himself, Sun Ran answered that he was the great master of creation, so a few vampire buffoons would only be a joke in front of him. Lan Xin immediately tugged at his face. He was like a kid who wanted to show off, not knowing the meaning of keeping a low profile. Right then, Care accepted the commission. A portal appeared on their side. They were informed to abide by the guiding principles of the enforcers. Everyone stood from their seat, ready to face the people from the Vampire Guild. Sun Ran was transported into the game. He slowly opened his eyes and surveyed his surroundings. Together with his wives, they were inside a prison cell. A display appeared in front of him. He was granted level permission. In the game, he was Orlando, a senior official of the Ottoman Empire, and was imprisoned after being framed for conspiring treason. Sun Ran then thought the game company had brains and sent his team to prison to prevent the destroyer from reaching them. Care slowly woke up and asked where they are. As soon as she took a good look at her surroundings, she screamed upon seeing a cockroach. Everyone gradually gained consciousness and saw they were sent to a horrible place. After they saw the details of their characters, Sun Ran expected the game company would release them on legal grounds. He then told them he knew many of the local spells and alchemy arts, and since he did not have a good understanding of his wife's abilities, he told them to explain so they could work better together. Lan Xin explained she was good with the one-handed sword and bow. She had 1 level warrior skill and level 1 archer skill to enhance her precision. Care was an assassin and knew some attack skills with the dagger and a level concealment skill. As long as there were shadows around, she could use them to conceal herself. Bai Tingshuan was a Taoist priest. She could draw talismans and cast spells, all of which were used for support. In the European Middle Ages, she was called a wicked witch. Right then, their prison cell was opened. The man brought the news of Lord Orlando being acquitted of his charges. He was released from prison, and the warden also prepared clean clothes. After a moment, Sun Ran changed his clothing. He then noticed his wives. They were changed into their clothes, revealing their beauty. After quarreling for a while, they arrived outside and approached a carriage. Sunran told the coachman to take them to Orlando's residence in the east of the city. On the way, Sunran's team discussed their next actions. He informed them he would start making weapons and asked them to protect him, and once weapons were ready, they would finish the demon. Care then said someone was following them, which Sunran guessed to be Dracula's people. Knowing no one had a weapon on hand, Bai Tingshuan drew a talisman to deal with the enemy. But Sunran stopped her and told her not to fret since they were following them and they might not attack an official of the empire in public. Moreover, Sunran was not an easy target, and despite the spells being much weaker, strength and chill of his ice sting spell remained the same. Time passed and their carriage could be seen passing the bridge. At the end of the bridge, they arrived at the Orlando residence and the stalkers did not launch an attack. A servant hurriedly welcomed Sunran's group. He introduced everyone as his guest and he asked the servant to take care of them. After the carriage left, Sunran thought there were other spies around. He suspected that the coachman was one of them. Inside the dining hall, Sunran asked Bai Tingshuan to cast a silencing barrier. She made a hand seal and energy surged around her hands. Soon, a large barrier appeared around them. As he ate, Sunran informed that there were 2 ordinary humans and 1 vampire following them a while ago. After he sensed the vampiric heart, he concluded the vampire was not very strong, and if he was a destroyer, it would be easy to deal with him. Lan Xin found out in their previous battle that the strongest vampire was a count and had a level body. She told them that he created the Bat Army in charge of assassinations and information gathering, and there were 1,000 people in that army, making them Duke Dracula's greatest support. Sunran then wondered why the enemies quickly responded to their arrival. Care stated that as an assassin herself, she believed that no matter how strong Dracula's forces were, it would be impossible to know their identities in a short time. Sunran then said that there might be a traitor within the game company who was feeding information to the enemy. Hearing their words, Lan Xin immediately contacted the admin. In a space station, He Qiang, the chief admin of, was informed about Lan Xin's connection. After they were connected, Lan Xin immediately reported the traitor in the company. He Qiang quickly commanded everyone to look up all data links made between the space station and the outside world in the past hour. The next second, the search commenced and did not find the source of the data link. He Qiang could not identify who leaked the information about the Thorn of Roses. Left with no other choice, he commanded everyone to monitor the administrator's every move until the mission completion. Back to Sunran's place, Lan Xin informed everyone that the traitor was confirmed. The company would compensate them for what happened. However, the destroyer now had Sunran's information. Now that they know he was an alchemist, they would attack at their weakest when he was busy making weapons. Bai Tingshuan asked if that was why he told her to set up a barrier, and if there were any informants in the residence too. Sunran confirmed her thoughts and declared he would beat them on their own game. In the vampire's hideout, a group of vampires was gathered. One of them informed the Lord it was midnight. The Lord then stood and walked away. He commanded one of his men to stay and be the point of contact, but once the situation changes, he should leave the place and report to their master. Licking his lips, the Lord exclaimed, "Let the hunt begin." In the middle of the night, the Lord could be seen running along the empty streets. He lifted his body, and with a thud, he swiftly landed on the other side of the wall. He was now inside Sunran's residence. He quickly moved. With it curved, he ran to the corner of the courtyard. Then, he stopped in his tracks. He noticed a frost rune on the ground and snorted in disdain. The paltry barrier around the residence could not keep him out. Suddenly, a silhouette sneakily dashed on his back. He immediately turned to look and realized it was an invisible assassin. Nearby, he sensed a sudden movement. He quickly dashed and attempted to grab the invisible assassin with his claws. Care smiled despite the menacing enemy approaching her. She dashed forward, slashing at the vampire lord. The dagger was so sharp and he broke into a cold sweat after seeing his decapitated fingers. Right then, a frost rune lighted beneath his foot. He quickly reacted and jumped away, evading the rune which could have paralyzed him from the waist down. Now that he could not attack with his claws due to the assassin's sharp dagger, he could only attack with a ranged weapon, the nemesis of the closed combat weapon like the dagger. A stone appeared on Care's finger. She flicked it toward the ground. The frost rune activated and successfully trapped the lord. Without hesitation, Care plunged her dagger into his heart. Knowing the vampire had great vitality, Care used Bai Tingshuan's exorcism talisman. The vampire erupted in flames and his roars reverberated through the quiet of the night. After dealing with the vampire, she did not even shed a drop of sweat. She wondered if her sisters were doing fine. On the other side, Lan Xin activated her sword skill, Gongsun Sword Dance. When Care arrived, she was almost finished subduing the enemies with the dual swords enchanted with the burn attribute Sunran had given her. After thrusting her blade at the last enemy, Lan Xin asked where was Sunran, which Care replied she did know. Bai Tingshuan then arrived and informed them that she saw Sunran leaving the residence. Lan Xin was worried for Sunran's safety, but Sunran appeared, bringing another vampire he caught while it was trying to report back to his faction. Throwing the vampire on the ground, Sun Ran asked how many of them were there and who was their leader. The vampire declared he would not reveal the truth and betray his master. Lan Xin then informed Sun Ran that the vampire was low level and must have signed a blood contract, making it impossible to get any information. Sun Ran told Bai Tingshuan to extract the vampire's blood essence and kick him out of the game. The vampire was confused about what game they were talking about. Soon, a talisman was pasted on its forehead, and the next second, the vampire erupted in flames. After the vampire dissolved into ashes, his blood essence was extracted into a bottle for Sun Ran to use. Later, Care was curious about the use of the vampire's blood essence, but Sun Ran only told her that she would find out in the future. Knowing that there would not be any more vampires coming to disturb them, Sun Ran decided to make real weapons with the gray stone in front of him. Lan Xin told him that the weapons he made were fine against the vampire. She wondered how weapons forged alchemically would look like, so Sun Ran told her to check it out. He started refining a level ceramic alloy as the protocore for making weapons. The ceramic alloy was revealed. Care stabbed it with her sword, but it broke upon contact. Like a phantom, Sun Ran's hands started to assemble a weapon. He made a turbo crossbow and gave it to Lan Xin, making her excited to try her weapon out. The crossbow and bolts had a level data structure and could pierce through inch-thick steel plates meters away. The arrows were inscribed with level burn runes and would activate upon contact with the target's body, causing a small pyroblast. Considering the vampire count's strength, he would be blown to pieces on impact. Seeing the statue had exploded into smithereens, Care was excited to have a weapon of her own too. Soon, the sun rose on the horizon. Pastor Grass arrived at Sun Ran's place, which he invited inside without delay. Sun Ran greeted Pastor Grass and thought he came for the vampires last night. Sure enough, he told Sun Ran the vampires who barged in were not ordinary and asked if Sun Ran offended Duke Dracula recently. Sun Ran affirmed with a worried face. Knowing the devotees considered vampires as their enemies, Sun Ran could get their aid to deal with the vampires efficiently. Without hesitation, he asked for help, prompting Pastor Grass to lend his aid. He gave Sun Ran the Dagger of Original Sin, the weapon of the progenitor vampire, Cain. With a high-level enchanted weapon given to him by the game admin through Pastor Grass's hands, Sun Ran could now set off to hunt Dracula. In a forest, Sun Ran's party was on horseback on the way to the Duchy of Wallachia. However, they did not know where the enemy is. Sun Ran then thinks of a solution. He took out a demon-seeking compass he had made, and with its help, they find the vampire they are looking for within the duchy. They immediately proceeded. He then tells Lan Xin to ask where the other enforcer, Jin Qi, is. And while he is at it, he grasps her leg, prompting her to pinch him. Her face turns red, telling him to keep his hand to himself. Meanwhile, Jin Qi is hiding in the sewers beneath the city. The chief admin decides to contact him. He tells Jin Qi to go with the Rose of Thorns for the assassination, but the man declines as he is used to operating solo. Helpless, the chief admin could only rely on Sun Ran's party. After knowing the situation, he wanted to infiltrate the city using invisibility talismans. However, she informs him that the life detection spell is set at the city gate, making the invisibility talisman only effective on their weapon. Eventually, he decides to split up and keep in contact using paper birds. On the way, they encountered a massive pile of dead bodies. Kilometer from the city, they went their ways. Sun Ran casually entered through the city gate. Once inside, he discovers the vampires had dominated the city. A bird flew toward his hand. It dissolves and a message appears, informing him of his wife's location. He enters an inn and Lan Xin could be seen sitting on the side. Once he paid for a room, the receptionist tells him to behave, otherwise, he would be impaled by the Duke. Afterward, he went to the second floor and finds a group of men with battered appearances. Lan Xin then points at Sun Ran, declaring she has taken a liking to him so he could sleep with her. Amidst the shocked gazes, he bowed and says it will be his honor. Later, they sat on the corner and discussed about Care's situation, who followed. A high-ranking vampire military official. He tells Bai Tingshuan to call her back since there is a probability of a trap to lure her. She agrees and sends a messenger bird. On the streets, a group of knights is searching all over the place for a suspicious person. He informs them that although Care is in trouble, she is not captured yet, otherwise, they would not search for her. He then asks them for the weapons which might draw suspicions. At this moment, the knights are climbing the stairs toward them. He tells Bai Tingshuan to act scared and to trust him. Right then, the door was kicked open. A group of knights entered and scanned the room. Walking around, they scolded Sun Ran for kissing in public and decides to go to another place to search. That night, the city was filled with soldiers roaming around the streets. In his room, his wives had already slept. Care then comes on top of him. She happily shows a bottle filled with the blood of the high-level vampire. He asks her if she encountered some trouble. She affirms and says she was about to act and ambush the vampire. However, Jin Qi suddenly appeared and attacked it. The vampire was no match for him, but reinforcements arrive quickly. They shoot arrows at Jin Qi. He was wounded, and although he escaped, the arrows are laced with poison and he will not get very far. After hearing the story, he tells her to sleep. A lively morning came. People are talking about the assassin who is captured and will now receive punishment. At the city gates, Care wakes up and asks what is going on. He answers that the assassin has been captured. Lan Xin wakes up and erupts in rage after hearing the news. On the bed, Care tells it was not her but Jing Qi. A crowd gathered around a raised platform. And there is Jing Qi, slumped on the ground with his hands tied with ropes. A vampire looks at him with a grin, and it urges Jing Qi to be filled with rage. Among the crowd, Sun Ran finally finds the enemy, Count Dracula. But he decides not to kill him since he has no evidence and it will be better if he kills the destroyer first. Right then, Jing Qi was brought toward a stake. Seeing this, the chief admin commands his assistant to kick him out of the game. In the game, he died out of fear. But Count Dracula did not care. He demands the execution of the dead. After Jing Qi's death, Sun Ran decides to search for the destroyer. Using the compass, he discovers the destroyer hiding outside the city. Later, they chose to revive Jing Qi to help them, but they need to recover his body from the spike first. Sun Ran takes on the task and tells them to hide behind a mountain. It did not take long and he recovers his corpse. After learning he was revived, she poked him with a stick. Right then, he sat upright and asks for clothes. But Sun Ran only has for girls. Jing Qi did not mind and with a hint of embarrassment, he asks for a weapon. Sun Ran immediately gave an enchanted dagger to him. Thereafter, they decided to go for the vampire destroyer. Jing Qi agrees and is determined to take his revenge. Later, they arrive at a cave. The game admin gave them the map but they could not scan the cave due to a thick layer of fog and concluded the possibility of traps inside. When entering the cave, Jing Qi takes the lead. They carefully walk on the path. Before arriving on a corner, he asks everyone to stop. A blanket of fire, activated by a flame rune, blazed relentlessly on the path ahead. Sun Ran leads the way, chants an ice shield to block the fire, and asks Lan Xin to shoot the fire runes. The ice shield activated, clearing the fire away. On the side, Lan Xin shoots with the crossbow. The arrow struck the rune, and the moment it exploded, they hide behind a cave wall. The path ahead is now clear. Jing Qi could only stare at Lan Xin's crossbow in envy. On the way, Sun Ran points at a large hall ahead and tells everyone to be careful. Once they enter the hall, they met a large entity. It was a destroyer golem. It raises its hand and asks everyone not to move. Care wonders what it was up to. It reveals to them that it knows their goal, and if they proceed ahead, they will be crushed to meat paste by traps, unable to be revived. And if they are lucky to break inside, he has already escaped by then. Care snorted and declares she would find it wherever it go. The golem retorts with a laugh and asks what they would do if he seeks refuge in the city where Duke Dracula reigns supreme. Hearing the words, Sun Ran wonders what it was up to. The golem wants a deal. They will let him complete the mission for the years of Dracula's remaining life, otherwise, the city will be massacred. In the game headquarters, the chief admin also hears the offer. He was enraged by the destroyer's arrogance for asking him to compromise. He decides to prepare for the divine punishment and obliterate the vampire once it appears. The destroyer quickly learns of the admin's plan and reveals divine punishment is ineffective because he wears protection gear. The chief admin halted the operation and contacts the enforcers. After talking for a while, Sun Ran reveals he is sure to defeat the enemy, and although Jing Qi finds it arrogant, he joins in for the sake of revenge. In the game, Sun Ran says he will back off. The golem laughs and suddenly, his expression changes after seeing Sun Ran's approach. He lightly taps the golem's chest with his staff. Magic circles materialize and the golem was frozen in place. Thereafter, he gains control of it and commands it to kneel. He then declares no one can escape and all the destroyers will be removed from the game. Now, Sun Ran had ownership of the golem. He commands it to make a path for them. The traps are triggered and they easily pass through. And now, not only do they have the golem's control, but they can also hear the destroyers' communication through it. They now know what are the destroyers' next plan. He then realized there are of them so he thinks they should split up. Jing Qi suggests dealing with the one in Targov East, but Sun Ran declines because there might be a mage and instead tells Jing Qi to go with Lan Xin to chase everyone who escapes. With that, both of them agreed with Sun Ran's arrangement. Later, Sun Ran's party arrives at a facility. He asks Bai Tingshuan to trace the destroyers. Silhouettes materialized before them and assume they were the destroyer who left a minute ago. In the corner, Care spots a hidden door, but Sun Ran quickly stops her from touching it and says it is a trap. He uses golden gaze and finds a large-scale explosive runic formation. And once someone opens it forcefully, everything will be reduced to ashes. Jing Qi is enraged at the thought of blowing up. Sun Ran then reveals he could decode the formation. In the game station, the chief admin was tense. He hurries everyone before the vampires left the cave and trigger the explosive formation. Controlling the formation, Sun Ran asks Bai Tingshuan to cast a cool breeze. She immediately chants and activates the skill toward the passage entrance. The formation disappeared and an opening was revealed. Feeling the gust of wind, they realize the exit was near and decide to give chase. This time, the vampires were finally out of the cave. All of them crouched down at once. But after a moment, there was only a deafening silence. One of the vampires asks Rhoda where is the explosion. After thinking for a second, he finds it impossible to misfire since he also installed a backup. Eventually, they assume it is the mage who defused it, so they decide to run. Sunran's party arrives at the exit, but the destroyers have already disappeared using a concealment skill, leaving the game admin no way to find them. Sunran decides to see if someone is lying in wait outside. He sends a rain of ice stings, but none of it hit. Far away, the vampire was holding a sniper rifle, expecting Sunran's probing. Concluding there was no one outside, Sunran asks Bai Tingshuan to send a paper puppet. She agrees and a puppet appears in her hand. There is some movement in the cave's entrance. Paper Sunran emerges out of it, but it was instantly obliterated by a bullet. Sunran was amazed at the destroyers for bringing the sniper rifle in the Middle Ages, so he decided to send more paper puppets. A group of paper puppets went outside and a hail of bullets obliterated them again. After shooting another batch of paper puppets, the vampire started to give up. He will head over to Istanbul, and since there is a change of plans, the other two will go to the capital of the duchy. After they were informed that the destroyers escaped, they wanted to chase, but Sunran stops them. He tells them to be cautious and that he will go first. Discovering there is no enemy outside, they slowly exited the cave. Bai Tingshuan cast the Divine Step formation, allowing everyone to run as if they are flying. Thereafter, the groups split up. Sunran's group will go to Targov East, while King Key's group will go to Istanbul. The chief admin also informs everyone about the activation of a powerful data monitoring system to keep them updated about the destroyers. On the cliff, they saw the vampires running within the forest and decides to chase them. Sunran then casts the skill Wing Bridge. The girls glide down toward the forest. After keeping their altitude, they chase after the vampire. After a moment, Sunran also followed suit. A magic circle materialized beneath his feet, and from the top of the cliff, he jumps down to chase the other vampire. The vampire notices Sunran's figure and decides to buy more time for his companions. Sunran attacked the vampire with countless ice swirls, but the vampire manages to jump sideways and evaded his attack. Although he survived, he laments how silent Sunran's spells are. Right then, he steps out of hiding and shoots Sunran, who is making his way toward him. However, the bullet is blocked by an ice shield. Right then, the ice swirl that he dodged earlier activated again and ambushed him. Caught off guard, the vampire is easily defeated. He pleaded for Sunran to stop, but Sunran's staff was quickly aimed at his head. The next second, the vampire exploded. Right then, a girl's scream echoed through the forest. Sunran recognized the voice came from Care. Right now, they were facing another vampire. Sunran arrives as reinforcement. He casts the cure spell on Care's decapitated arm and tells her to hide away for a while. The vampire casts fireballs, and they hurled toward Bai Tingshuan's way. Sunran hurriedly chanted a frost rune, and they successfully blocked the vampire's attack. The vampire asks if Rhoda is killed. Without waiting for a reply, he casts another bunch of fireball at Bai Tingshuan. Sunran casts ice shields to block the fireballs, and at the same time, he sends a couple of ice attacks at the vampire. The vampire steps back and remains unharmed. He casts another fireball with a smile. After confirming Bai Tingshuan was unharmed, Sunran tells her to keep her distance from the fight. He blocks the huge fireballs and sends another ice spell at the vampire. Realizing he could not match Sunran's casting speed, the vampire casts the defense spell. However, his shield shattered against the impact of Sunran's spells. After he was pushed back, another batch of ice magic attacks chased for him. The vampire was left without a choice and activated the ring on his finger. It emitted a magic circle and activated the earth shield, shattering the ice spells upon contact with it. With the shield activated, the vampire launches massive fireballs. He even aims at Bai Tingshuan, who is far away. Sunran barely defended against it with his ice shields. He cast another spell called Explosive Heat, and threw it at the vampire. The massive ball of energy erupted and devoured the ground. After the dust settled, the vampire remained standing behind his shield. However, the shield begins to shatter. Sunran appeared and was prepared to attack when the vampire gleamed with radiance. Within the blink of an eye, a sniper rifle appeared in his hands, and without hesitation, he shoots Sunran. In the game station, everyone in front of the screen thought it was over. However, at that moment, the air seemed to have frozen. The bullet going for Sunran's head twisted from its trajectory. The game admin's jaw dropped at this sight. Meanwhile, the vampire broke into a cold sweat, realizing Sunran could exert his spiritual energy to influence the bullet, a testament to his ability to control data. He immediately turned tail. This time, Care decides to log out since she was useless. Sunran agrees since she was not disabled and it is only a game. After freezing his wife, Sunran chased the vampire. While they were chasing, the vampire begs to let him go since he only wants to make ends meet. Bai Tingshuan then detected there are nights ahead. Sunran asks the vampire if his bad army will come. After it is confirmed, he resolves to kill the vampire as soon as possible. The vampire suddenly turns around and takes his sniper rifle to take advantage of the situation. However, Sunran was quick to respond and cast a layer of ice shields. The vampire is helpless against it and started to run again. He activated his vampire burst skill, leaving Sunran behind. And although the skill Sunran launched at him had missed, the vampire hopes his reinforcement would immediately come. Not far away, an army of knights galloped with frightening speed. The reinforcements have finally arrived. Bai Tingshuan decides to hold them back so Sunran could deal with the vampire. She waves her hand and dozens of paper puppets appeared. An eerie mist pervaded the air, summoning the army of the undead. The leader of the knights points at Bai Tingshuan and commands everyone to stop her. She says goodbye to Sunran and resolves to meet again in the enforcer's headquarters. Sunran could only accept the situation and let her suffer. At that moment, the army charged at each other. Meanwhile, Sunran continued to chase the vampire. They arrive at the river, startling the people around. The vampire is now in a panic. He used blood float step and run over the river. However, Sunran remained chasing, using a skill of his own, causing the people around dumbfounded. In the game station, the chief admin commands Sunran to finish the destroyer quickly since other people will make a complaint after they log out. Hearing the chief admin, Sunran asks about Lan Xin's situation and discovered they were dealing with the leader. He finally turned serious, casting a couple of ice swirls. The vampire chose to swim in the river to hide. He will head to the deepest part and ambush Sunran for a counterattack. Unknown to him, Sunran predicted his plans. He cast an ice spell. The river instantly froze as though the ice age dawns again. The vampire is shocked at the sudden turn of the situation. Realizing the consequences, he prepared to escape. But it was too late. He discovers he is just dancing in the palm of Sunran's hand. In the end, no matter how much he struggled, he could not escape alive. This time, the chief admin informs Sunran of Jing Qi's death and Lan Xin's injury. Knowing he could not rush over at this moment, he asks about Jing Qi's corpse. The chief admin says Jing Qi's brain is unharmed and wonders if Sunran will possess his body. Sunran winks at the chief admin, saying he only needs his brain to turn the situation around. A moment later, Sunran wakes up in Jing Qi's body. On the side, Lan Xin is facing the leader of the destroyers. The vampire tells her to give up, but Lan Xin retorts that her companions are nearby to ambush him. Hearing her words, the vampire laughs. He just needs to catch his breath, kill Lan Xin, and go elsewhere to escape. Lan Xin points the crossbow at the vampire, ready to shoot at any moment. But right now, the vampire's injury is completely healed. The moment the vampire attacked, Lan Xin also fired her crossbow. The vampire stares at the arrow as if it was very slow. He steps aside, easily dodging it. Right now, he was glad for the change in plans, otherwise, he had met Sunran on the way. At this moment, Lan Xin is informed of Sunran's arrival nearby. She is asked to drop her crossbow and lure the vampire towards Sunran while fighting him with her sword. Lan Xin asks the vampire for a duel, but he underestimates her. In the game station, a worker's abnormal data link is located. The chief admin arrives and quickly stops the traitor. However, she disappears, and it was then revealed that the real worker was unconscious and supposed to be traitor was an intruder. After learning the game station's blunder, Sunran requested an increase in commission, fee to which the chief admin immediately agreed with the condition that they complete the mission. In-game, the vampire wonders what the meaning of watching out for Jing Qi is and concludes he might be given another body to ambush him. The battle then starts in a flash. Lan Xin's sword shattered at once as she swung it at the vampire's shield. The vampire chased for her, eventually giving Sunran a chance. The vampire halted his advance and dodged the incoming arrow from his side. It was Sunran's attack. He controls the crossbow with his spiritual energy, giving the vampire a hard time dodging the hail of fire. The vampire notices his injury has reopened. Right then, the arrow arrives before him, and an explosion erupted with a loud bang. He activated his shield on time, and now it is full of cracks. However, he knows the arrows are limited and he only needs to keep on dodging and it will be his win. After his injury got healed, he activated his blood shield burst again. Now there is only one arrow left. He asks Sunran to bring it on. After activating another blood shield, he evaded the last arrow with ease. But at that moment, a smile appeared on Sunran's face. The arrow changed direction and aimed at the vampire. He activated his blood shield charge and leaped into the air, dodging the arrow again. The crucial moment came, and Lan Xin was stunned. The vampire widely grins, and the fight concludes with his victory. But when he landed, he felt something amiss and froze in place. Even Lan Xin and the game admin are surprised after seeing his expression. The vampire raised his foot and saw an injury, and at the next second, it began to crack. The vampire finally realized he is only played by Sunran like a fool. He heartily laughed and admits defeat. Thereafter, his body exploded. On the side, Sunran held the broken blade which he used to defeat the vampire. Lan Xin then approaches and thanks him for his hard work. The mission is now complete. Later at the Rubik's Cube of Order, Kerr is happily praising herself for receiving an outstanding evaluation grade. Even Lan Xin and Kerr were graded the same and received an additional merit. However, Sunran only received a perfect evaluation grade instead of a legendary grade because of the commotion he caused in the river fight. Lan Xin says it is fine and they all have done well. She then tells Sunran about everyone's decision. He is now the team leader of the Roses of Thorns. Care and Bai Tingshuan also congratulated Sunran on his promotion and expressed their faith in him. Sunran happily accepts the position, giving him the ability to contact admins at any time. Care then informed everyone that Jing Qi transferred credit points to their account, so they decided to log out and have a gathering in the real world. They chose a tour of the garden. Lan Xin and Sunran arrive at the long-distance station. She tells him that Care is near, and as soon as she arrives, Sunran praised her beauty. The girl approached them and flattered Lan Xin, making her blush. She then looks at Sunran, complimenting him for being more handsome in the real world. This time, another girl arrives. She then greets everyone. On the side, Sunran is smiling like a fool after seeing his wives in real life. In the garden, Sunran's group appreciated the view as they walk on the street. Right then, he proposes to apply for residence after their assets reach $1 million to stay together in the garden. Hearing the price, Care was disappointed since she only had 1,000. After being asked, Lan Xin tells them that together with Sunran they only had 1,000. Sunran then reveals he had severe heart disease in the past and Lan Xin spent her money on a heart transplant for him. The other wives were full of sadness, asking why Sunran did not tell them earlier, but Lan Xin dismisses the unhappiness. And right then, they decided to work hard together and earn $1 million in a year, after which, they visited the ocean park and also went shopping. The night came, and Sunran was filled with bags of clothes. They then proceeded to dinner. The night was peaceful, and soon, the beautiful fireworks bloomed in the sky, making his wives wish for the day not to end. After having fun, Lan Xin tells everyone to gather in the Enforcer's HQ to upgrade their abilities and accept a new mission. But before going home, they took a picture. In the training room, they are discussing their skills when Sunran heard about Virtual World Battleground. Lan Xin tells him that they will go there to hone their fighting skills. Sunran brings Bai Tingshuan with him to cultivate the longevity art. With a blush, she asks Sunran how to do it. He tells her to sit in any way she likes as long as she is comfortable. They started their cultivation and Sunran chanted a mysterious mantra. Bai Tingshuan suddenly felt a mysterious energy coursing through her body. Sunran then tells her she is now a Taoist disciple, so she wants to address him as her master. However, Sunran disagrees, so she could only treat him as a teacher. This time, Care arrives. She is mad for being defeated by the underhanded tactics of an illusionist called Jasmine. After she cried in Sunran's embrace, he decides to take a look. On the screen, Care pointed at Jasmine as though she was a mortal enemy. Seeing her high win rate, he decides to take her on. At this moment, the people around the arena burst into cheers, predicting Sunran will be trashed by Jasmine's illusions. Annoyed by their chatter, Care confronts them. Sunran then tells her to ignore their words, because he will demonstrate how he will defeat Jasmine.
That's it for today. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.